to the 50-yard line.
Welcome to the Audible. Week 1 is in the books, and early season angles are always difficult. And this week was no different. My unders that I loved, if I had made them first half unders, would have looked a lot better than they turned out. A lot of touchdowns, a lot of high-scoring games. Week 1 was a battle, and I can't wait to talk briefly about the past, but mainly look ahead at the future. I am joined, as always, on Tuesdays by my guy, Donnie RightSide. Donnie RightSide, welcome. Week 1 is in the books. How are you feeling after this first slate of games?
I loved it. It was so nice to have football back in our lives. I mean, we like college football, I get it, but the NFL is king. I had so much fun sitting back watching. Now, the picks, the way they ended up, weren't to my liking, but however, saying that, there's some things to take into week 2, which I think we can use moving forward. And hey, you got to get used to it. There's going to be bad beats out here all over the place. You just hope more of those go for you than against you. But I'm excited. I'm ready to go week 2, baby.
I'm ready to go too. I'm so excited. And last night's action I thought was phenomenal. I mean, that Saints-Texans game, Deshaun Watson was absolutely spectacular. I mean, I'm worried for his health and safety, but man, was he spectacular. In the end, I had a big 3-1 night last night, which I needed desperately to get back to 500, but I'm still minus 0.25 units. We as a group did not have a good start, but it's just 1 week. And actually, to be honest, if you had offered me, if you said, Jimmy, would you take 6 and 6 down 0.25 units week 1? I probably would have said yes. I traditionally do struggle week 1 and week 2, so I'm fine with it. But Rafa, why don't you pop up our records? Transparency and honesty is crucial to our show and to our cappers in the chat. Let's take a look at where we stand after 1 week, Rafa. There it is. So a lot of work to do. And we will see those numbers with plus signs beside them very, very soon. First off, shout out to all the cappers in the chat. This is what makes this show special. Robert Weimer in the house, Nutflush, Alan, Sean, Mick, Justin, Grammer. Beautiful guys, man. Truckin' 6'6", God, D-Tay, Duggs, Drew Barron, Jace, Gum, Zay, Ross, T.J. Parks, Aaron Maybe, Alex Ramirez. What a great, great group. What is your biggest takeaways from week 1? And going over my action, Ravens minus 4.5, minus 110 was very easy, but the other spots were difficult. Washington, Philadelphia under 45, minus 105, loss. Tennessee, Cleveland under 45.5, loss. LA Rams, Carolina under 50 looked very good for a long part of that game, but lost. Cincinnati, Seattle under 44. The rain helped me there. Colts plus 6.5 was a casher. Lions minus 2.5, loss. Giants, Dallas under 45.5, loss. And then Texans plus 7 cash. Houston, New Orleans over 52 cash. Denver minus 1 loss. And Denver, Oakland under 43 cash. What were the spots that surprised you, and what fit in with your expectations, Donnie?
Yeah, starting out with the Thursday night football game, which had the Chicago Bears, and was just hoping that they wouldn't have a terrible game out of Mitchell Trubisky, and they got a terrible game, so I ended up dropping that one. But I was right on the mark where I wanted to be on Sunday, even though it does show a 2-4 record. You know, taking a look, the Rams were in full control of that Carolina Panthers game the entire way and covered. That was a pretty easy one. Even though the final score really didn't indicate it, the Rams were never really on the wrong side there, built up a nice lead, which seemed to be the MO of the Sunday ticket, because take a look at the Jets. Hey, I got the 16-0 lead, minus 3 with the Jets late in the second half at home. They ended up blowing that game. And then I had the Detroit game, 24-6 in the fourth quarter, minus 2.5, ended up losing that one. Let's not also forget the Tampa Bay game, where San Francisco, they had 5 touchdowns called back in the first half and 3 defensive scores in the game, and they still don't get over the 49.5, which I had on the ticket for the card. So I was right on it. If the games would have played out like I thought they would have, or just would have been equal in those, I would have had a really good week, but we didn't have a good week. So hopefully some of those, I bank those losses that I should have had as wins later in the season. But I'm looking forward to it here. About what I expected, it's hard to bet weeks 1 and week 2. And my philosophy coming into this pick contest was, if I can get to 500 by the end of week 2, we're going to have a pretty good football season.
Without a doubt. And don't forget, your Patriots minus 5.5 was an absolute thing of beauty. You're right. You're absolutely right. Jets, Rams, Patriots, Lions. You could easily be sitting here at 4-2. So, them the breaks. But I'm very excited about this opportunity of working with you. You got me off the Steelers. So drinks on me next time we hang out, because there's an extra $150 in my pocket. Let's get right to work. I'm excited about this. Oh, I just loved everything I saw last week, even when I was losing my mind. I had a really bad weekend, actually, with college football and NFL, but Monday, we got rolling in the right direction. Let's keep moving in the right direction, and let's see if we can touch on each and every one of these games, Donnie, and rifle through them with the help of the great cappers in our chat. We're going to start with the Thursday nighter. And just a couple notes from our guys in the chat. Robert Weimer says, can't trust the Lions. Eagles D didn't come to play until 2 hours into the game. Robert Weimer says, right side, Donnie, wrong result. And if that is the situation, the pluses are going to be beside your numbers very soon. Let's start with Buccaneers at Panthers. Big spread for a divisional game. Carolina opening at -6.5. They're now at -7 at some books, 6.5 at others. Total opened up at 51.5 and is now going down 49.5 across the board, but at 50 at Pinnacle. Every year, Carolina is unpredictable for me. And I've said this for 2 years working with you guys. I find them a very difficult cap. They have this oft-injured, possibly disinterested quarterback. In saying that, the Bucs looked terrible against the 49ers. Their running game looked okay. We heard Bowles and Arians talking about getting their running game going in the preseason. Their running game looked okay. But I would say that's because the Niners were leaving the middle wide open, right? They had their wide 9 defensive set, and that was leaving the middle of the field wide open. So I don't trust this Buccaneers running game, even though it looked okay. The Bucs defense looked bad, other than Vita Vea. I mean, the Bucs defense looked bad. And Donnie, Mike Evans got dominated by Ahkello Witherspoon. What information do we take from that? Is Witherspoon a elite defensive back, or is something wrong with Mike Evans? Because that was crazy to me. This game makes me extremely uncomfortable. Both teams make me uncomfortable. The only look I would say early is both offenses did not look very good. You have one guy in the Carolina Panthers offense that does everything for them, and I'm not talking about Cam Newton, and then you have a Buccaneers team filled with question marks. Donnie, right side, this game makes me extremely uncomfortable. The under is the only thing I would look at now, but I don't know if I'm going to pull that trigger with Winston throwing pick sixes. What do you think here, Donnie?
It's hard. It's because when you take a look at, again, Carolina, there should be no reason that each and every week we wonder about the quarterback. He's a money burner. He's a loser in the NFL, straight up. 0-7 his last 7 starts. You thought he would change that opening day. You saw the money coming in on Carolina, and you got to remember, you're betting on Cam Newton. So in that game, no surprise that they weren't able to cover that spread. But now we're looking into an edge where it's going to fall into Cleveland's side. And the only question I have on Thursday Night Football again comes in, like you talked about it. Can you put your money with Cam Newton? Now we're seeing the lines creeping up to -7, -101 at Pinnacle, 6.5 minus juice across the board. They should win this game because, as I'm going to say it, each and every audible we have, if you bet the road team on Thursday Night Football, money line or spread, take that money, give it to the Red Cross, and donate it because you will burn your money all season long. You look home teams on Thursday Night Football. If you don't, you're doing it wrong. It's the single biggest detractor in professional sports that an NFL team has to go on the road on a Thursday night game. It's an unfair advantage. It's one of the few things in all of sport that really goes against and plays one way. So we can only look at the Carolina Panthers in this football game. Tampa Bay was ridiculously bad last week. And again, when you talk about Mike Evans there, we heard about, flu before the game, 90 degrees. Maybe there was something to it. But then again, if the flu was running through the locker room, you only have, 2-3 days to get ready in order to go on the road and play a divisional opponent in Carolina. Carolina is the much better football team. But it gets back to that same adage. Can you bet Cam Newton and put your money on him?
Yeah. And he looked I don't know what it was. Think about the difference of body language from the sidelines between Cam Newton and Deshaun Watson. Because Deshaun Watson was coming in and out of the injury tent like a leader, saying, don't worry, I'm good, getting his back rubbed down, all that stuff, saying, don't worry, I'm good, we'll answer back. Aaron maybe says Panthers win at home, lay the points, get the cash. If you put your money on Winston short week, you might as well light it on fire. Alex Ramirez says Thursday, difficult football game to find an angle. Drew Barron saying Jameis is a train wreck. Who knows what's up with Cam? Pass. And that's what I'm thinking right now. And I don't want to put you guys to sleep. I also, my 12 plays week 1 bothered me immensely. Why did I have 12 bets out there? I was hoping to have 4 to 6, and yet I had 12. This game makes me extremely uncomfortable. I understand home team or pass, but do I trust the Panthers here? I don't think so. I don't know who to trust, and that makes me just want to do nothing. At this point, Donnie, we're not going to be able to talk about this game again because we have our Friday show next. So at this point, does it look like you will not be making a move? And also, do you find that Thursday nighter might be a little easier week 2 than, say, week 8?
You're right, because you're not playing to as much attrition week 2, because even though it's that short work week, week 1, both the teams have the same amount of break for the Thursday night football game. So technically that Bears-Packers game wasn't a true Thursday night. This is the first true Thursday nighter, but you're right. Maybe after weeks 4, 5, and 6, when that attrition really builds in and your bones, you're not able to get out of bed on Tuesday or Wednesday. You got to play a road game on a Thursday night. That plays into a little bit, but as hard as it is to take Cam Newton, if I have to give an opinion on this game, it's Carolina or nothing for me in this game, Jimmy.
I hear you. And if it wasn't for McCaffrey, we'd be talking about the dumpster fire, the Carolina Panthers. Jay Scum says, I don't trust either side, Jimmy. I don't know how you can play it. I don't either. Yeah. And Merrick says, you just got a bit excited for football being back, Jimmy. Yeah, I'm excited. But still, right. I'm not just going to. Our record and us succeeding on this show is very important. And I don't see a move other than an under here, Donnie. What do you think about this total?
Yeah, no, I would be on the same wavelength as you as well. Cam Newton may be more likely to keep the football on the ground and move the chains. We saw Jameis Winston was a train wreck, especially in the red zone over the weekend. So if you're going to give me a 50 on a short work week, probably going to lean more unders than overs in that spot, Jimmy.
Yeah, and funny, so we talk about week 2 being this situation where it's all about public overreaction. Then I look at my leans here, and my recency bias is doing the exact same thing everybody else's is, and that's I've got overs on my card, over leans, except here. This is my only under lean, and that's a bad sign when we have a record amount of touchdowns week 1, and here I'm over. I know that's a mistake. I know that's a recency bias. We will talk more about that issue moving forward. Let's go to Colts at Titans. Here we go. Titans open up -4.5 at BetOnline. Also, you know what I'm going to do? Just because BetOnline put a lot of these opening lines out before week 1 even started. They had their week 2 opening lines out. So for this situation, I'm actually going to switch my opener from BetOnline to Pinnacle, because I noticed in my capping, it was sort of sending me off in the wrong direction when I was thinking, look at that opening line. It's moved 7 or 8 points, and I'd look at Pinnacle, and it was nothing like that. So I've just switched it over to Pinnacle as my opening line, and Pinnacle opened up Tennessee at -3. So let's just say there's been no movement except that Heritage is at 3.5. Then Indianapolis this total opened up at 44. It's now at 45 at most places. Pinnacle still hanging the 44. I thought the Colts looked really good. Vinatieri missing 3 field goals was nuts. I was very happy to still cash. Now, Brissett's not Andrew Luck, but he's decent. They had a great backup, and he's a decent starting quarterback. I mean, we're not talking about Nate Peterman here. We're talking about a decent starting quarterback. And the Browns, in that Titan spot, the Browns lost partly because they bought into the hype. This is the most hyped team of the offseason, and these players bought into it. The Titans are a tough team to bet on. They win games they're not supposed to. They lose games that we expect them that they're supposed to win. First off, A.J. Brown looked awesome. He looked spectacular. Derrick Henry looked like a monster. And that Browns defense isn't bad, right? I mean, I'll have Donnie answer it, but I don't think that's a bad Browns defense. Just this Titans team was hitting on all cylinders. Delaney Walker, healthy. Offense looked good. But I don't trust the Titans as a favorite. You like the Titans as a dog, but not as a favorite. I do lean to the over. Donnie RightSide, Colts, Titans.
Yeah, Jimmy, we talked about the same thing before the game last week, and I'm going to stick to that same thing because we're early in the season. There's still a rallying cry because they have the semblance of some really good pieces on their football team for the Indianapolis Colts. 7, 6.5. I doubt anybody got a 6 and got a push in that game. If you had the Colts, you won that game heading to overtime. I really like the way they played, and it gets back to that same montage where we're saying, you know what? They still think they can make the playoffs. They still can make that push. Don't give up on anything. We're still early in the season. You know what? I like Indianapolis early in the week with the +3 points here heading on the road. Hey, back-to-back road games. That was a tough road game out west. It was an overtime game. You really had to expend yourself. Donnie, didn't you see the Titans win easily against the Cleveland Browns? Now they're coming back home with a lot of momentum. I see all that stuff. But you know what else I see as well? When you were looking at that Titans game, that was still a one-score game heading into the fourth quarter. And if you're going to tell me right now that the other team that you're playing is going to have 18 penalties for like 190 yards, nobody's winning that game. The Colts are way more disciplined than that. And also, when you look at the turnover ratio in that game, Jimmy, with the Titans just played, they won the turnover battle 3-0 over Cleveland in that game. That's not going to happen with Indianapolis. You see what you see week one. Oh, my goodness. The Titans are really good, and it's only 3. I'm going to take them. Early in the week, Jimmy, I like those Colts here this week.
I do too, but this is another game, and I don't want to be sitting here saying, oh, I'm scared.
Yeah.
But It's week 2, and I am. So this doesn't make me comfortable here, this 3-point spot. I do think that there could be points on the board. I think that this over could be in play. Let me go to it right now here at SBRodds.com on the NFL page. I'm seeing a nice low 44. It's already up to 45 at most books. I think they can get there. What do you think, Donnie?
Yeah, no, it's still a low number. You're right. I mean, Indianapolis is still going to be dialing up plays. Whether or not they have big players, they can be as explosive without Andrew Luck begs to be the question. But the one thing you like about Tennessee, I was really impressed. I watched the first game I wanted to watch Monday morning in a replay was that Tennessee Titans game. They have all the pieces. Mariota looked good. He was active in the pocket. Delaney Walker back healthy. What a big weapon that is. And again, talking about the running game, getting it going. And they did go up against a pretty good defense. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to get to 45 or more points. I like that look on the over here.
I do too. And A.J. Brown, I'll be saying his name all year. He was awesome. Delaney Walker's healthy. This is not the Titans team we saw at the end of last year. Now, I'm not going to sit there and drink their juice because I said right off the top, you can't trust this football club. But maybe healthy, Mariota being pushed by Tannehill, maybe these are the right buttons to be pressed. We'll talk more about this game. So 6-6 was my record on the week, but 2-4 in the pick six contest, although I did hit my 2-unit play, so I'm just down 1.37 units. But that's not something that I want to hang my hat on. By the way, $50,000 pick six contest. Donnie's in it. I'm in it. Whale Capper, Teddy Covers, Drew Martin, Big Ragoo, DJ Big Boss. We are all in the big contest, and we need you guys to be in it as well. Also, it doesn't matter that you missed for week 1. You can miss up to 3 weeks and still be eligible for the grand prize. We also have a half prize halfway through the season and $1,600 we're giving out each week. There's the link for the $50K contest. Let's move on to Chargers at Lions. Man, all I could think about, Donnie, was our very own Jay Peach, who always tells us never lean Lions. I was sitting back, enjoying every second of it. What was it, 24-6, 24-9? Like Kyler Murray's going to run them back in the game. And the Lions look bad and should inspire no confidence. The Chargers have to be the look. And here we go. Chargers open up at -3. They're down to 2.5. They open up at -4 at BetOnline. At 2.5, how could the Chargers not be the look here? The Chargers just beat a far better team in the Colts. The Colts are a much better team than the Detroit Lions. We know that Derwin James' loss is going to hurt them, but the way I see this Chargers team is with Derwin James, they're a Super Bowl contender. Without him, they're still a good football team. The Chargers should go into Detroit, go into Ford Field, and take care of business. And the over should be in play. Shouldn't the Chargers take care of business here, Donnie?
I mean, they rightfully should. And this is what the tough part about it, because we like to call week 2 overreaction week, because you take what you saw week 1 and try to apply the same things week 2. And this is when football teams improve. They, get their act together. They finally play a full game. And there's a lot of, structure in the balance. What I mean by that is, like, you take a look at the Chargers 1-0. There's a lot of statistics out there to tell you, Jimmy, a football team in the NFL that goes 0-2 has like a less than 10% chance of actually making the playoffs that year. So jobs get put on the line week 2, and it really ramps up the pressure. But having said that, the stuff that we talked about all summer, Detroit's the much better football team over Arizona. They're up 24-6, a team in Arizona that can't get out of their way. And then you see it unfold down the stretch where Detroit just can't make any plays and turns into an absolute sieve on defense. They have a conversion late in the game to clinch it where they call a timeout right as the snap is, when it looks like the screen pass is easily going to get the first down, maybe even go for a touchdown. They end up losing that game. That one hurts as they come back home. And you're not coming back home and just getting one of these teams that, hey, maybe we'll catch them on the rise like the Giants or the Miami Dolphins, or let's get rid of the Cincinnati Bengals, like a younger team or a younger head football coach that you can kind of pick on. You're getting a really talented football team. And where's the expectations for Detroit right now? Unless I'm getting 3.5 points or more, I can't lean Detroit. I don't care that all the tickets are coming in on the Chargers and it's going to be a real contrarian play. I see what I see on the field with Detroit right now, and I can't trust them, because if you're only getting 2.5, that usually means what, Jimmy? You got to win the football game outright in order to cover.
Yeah. I mean, why do you think we're getting a 2.5 from a 3 on the Chargers?
God, maybe just contrarian. And again, getting back to that point where if you go 0-2, you can really get the casket out for your football season and start putting some nails in there because you're not making the playoffs. And we're talking about the Detroit Lions coming home, rookie coach, didn't have a good success last year, heading into his second year. And oh, yeah, by the way, you have the Bears, the Patriots, you have the Bears, the Packers, and the Vikings in your division. Pretty good football teams. You go 0-2, just start selling off the football team. There's a lot of pressure to win and a lot of momentum building where Detroit has to win this game. But just because you have to, you still got to go out and execute. And the Chargers, damn good football team.
So I expect the public's going to come in on the Chargers throughout the week, and those 2.5s will be gone. Is that your expectation?
Yes. And if again, we could be we looked at the same stuff last week, like, look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they got absolutely pasted in that football game. It's the same type of structure that we look at. Same thing with Baltimore that we saw week 1. Oh my goodness, look at this. Nobody believes in the Dolphins. Let's take the Dolphins, and they get absolutely run out of the building. So something interesting to keep an eye on. But right now, I don't really want anything to do with Detroit until I could see them put up on the football field.
Robert Weiner says Chargers early start, early in the year, bad spot for them. Yes, I agree with that, but I just see a talent advantage that can overcome that. What do you think of Robert Weimer's look? And he's right. Chargers early start, early in the year, bad spot for them. What do you think?
Look, it boils down. He's right about that, but it gets down to the more simplest terms in the NFL. Jimmy, it's really hard to win a road football game in the NFL. I don't care what type of football team you are. So that's always in the direction, and you're at home and getting points. I can see that point of view because I put a lot of stock in the home teams, but just the way, like if Detroit went last week, Jimmy, and won 24-6 and closed it out, and you're looking at say, you know what? Hey, Detroit, maybe can get to 2-0. But the way they collapsed, the way they went into overtime, they didn't lose the football game. I should correct that. They lost for me because I had the -2.5, but they tied. That feels like a loss on the road coming home. That's what I look at more. That was deflating for Detroit.
Garvey and I'm on the same page. He says Chargers -3, although you grab the 2.5, and he says the over looks good. I think the over looks great. I think there's going to be scores in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, a tough one. I don't know what I'm getting out of Detroit yet, because if you're asking me if this football game, you're always going to get a pretty clean game out of the Chargers. Phillip Rivers and that offense, they have weapons. They can get after it. But I'm looking at the opposite side, because when we looked at last week with the Arizona Cardinals defense, that's not nearly as good a pass rush that they're going to be getting this week. So if you put up 24 points and then just went into a shell and struggled in that football game, where do you get a load of this front seven coming after you from the Chargers?
I've got to jump on. Coco Bongo, my guy Coco Bongo said prop bets are my best friend first couple weeks. Carlos Hyde all-purpose set at 24.5 last night. Unbelievable. I loved Hyde not being the focal point of that running attack. Okay, let's keep rolling. Bills, Giants. Bills open up at -2.5. Now there's 1.5s on the board. This just makes no sense to me. The Giants are a bad football team. They have Saquon and nobody else. Now, Josh Allen, if you don't want to trust Josh Allen, I get it. You know, he struggled with accuracy in college. Those quarterbacks that struggle with accuracy in college, they don't figure it out in the NFL. I get it. But the Bills should win this. The Jets are a much better team on paper than the Giants. And, you know, Dak Prescott, whom I think is just pretty much a game manager, tore the Giants' D up. I mean, you have to be a bad football team to give Dak Prescott a perfect passer rating. Why are the Giants taking money here? Am I the public that's going to lose in week 2? Because that's historically what I do. I see the Bills here as a spot I want.
I could see it, and I could see exactly what you're talking about here. This, and maybe the only principle that we get back to is what we just talked about. Detroit, Jimmy, 0-1 football team looking ahead to 0-2 versus a 1-0 team. Maybe the pressure's a little bit off, but when I look at the New York Giants, and completely different than like when I look at like the Miami Dolphins or some teams that get boat race, because I was real close to looking like an idiot on Sunday when I was going to tweet out during the 4 o'clock games. I think we can all agree Arizona is atrocious, and so are the Miami Dolphins. Then the Arizona, Cardinals come back and get a tie in that football game. But when you look at the Giants, Jimmy, and if we just break the game down as we watch with the Dallas Cowboys, the Giants don't have anybody on the defensive line, 0 playmakers. The Giants don't have anybody at linebacker, 0 playmakers. The Giants don't have anybody in the secondary, 0 playmakers. When I look at that, how can you bet that football team? We know how good Saquon Barkley is. I get it. You don't have very many playmakers whatsoever. Now, Ingram is a pretty good tight end and athletic. He can do some damage. But at the wide receiver position, if he still had Odell Beckham Jr., how crazy he is, he can run really fast in a straight line and open up a lot of the stuff over the middle. If I'm looking at a football team, and I'm not a big fan yet of the Buffalo Bills offense, I think they'll get it together. But Buffalo does have playmakers on their football team when the Giants have one or two, period. If this line is going to stay in that level, right now, even though you want to overreact week 2, how are you betting the Giants? Are you just, well, they look good in the preseason. But when it really shows up and you play your stars versus your stars, the Giants don't have any stars.
Exactly. And I just, it's perplexing. I don't know how to do this. Dennis Cloak says Bills are on their second away game. Teams that have 2 straight away games to open the season tend to not cover the second game. I hear that. Ski Profit just in. Patriots traded Demaryius Thomas to the Jets. Wow. Big move. David Young says, Donnie looks like Thanos. If it's not sports, I don't know what it is. So I don't know what that is. So I can't. Marku Thierry says Giants team total under 21.5. That makes sense to me. That team total under 21.5. That makes sense to me. But at this point, I want the Chargers and the Bills on my card. But as we know, you sit around with road favorites in the early weeks of the season, you're going to have a negative ROI.
Yes.
Let's move on to Arizona, Baltimore. Let's see what we're dealing with market-wise. Arizona, Baltimore. Baltimore opening up -14. They're 13.5 to 13 at Bet Online. This total opened up at 42.5. It's been hammered up all the way up to 47. You know, the Ravens are getting a very easy start to their season. You know, lobs to Hollywood Brown against, we thought the Dolphins secondary was going to be good this year, but you can't be good if there's no pass rush. There has to be a pass rush. So let's not get too caught up in the Ravens just putting a beat down on this terrible Dolphins team. Giant spreads are very dangerous, and they're dangerous here. Kyler Murray was impressive. You know, he buys time, he throws a nice ball, but they don't have enough to protect him, and this Ravens defense should be able to get after him. This huge spread makes me uncomfortable. The Cardinals could get garbage time TDs to put this to cover. A late cover wouldn't surprise me. Cardinals at Ravens, I don't see this as a slam dunk Ravens. This is too big a spread for week 2. Donnie, right side, Cardinals, Ravens.
Yeah, it's interesting that this game is, has some different points that you can sort of fit on. Did you like the Arizona team that put up 6 points over the first 3.5 quarters, looked like dead on the road? Or do you take the team that actually ended up 27-27 at the end of regulation? But the one thing I like, especially, Jimmy, early in the football season, is we talked about it before the game kicked off in Miami. If there's one team that's built to win early in the season, it's the Baltimore Ravens. You saw it the previous year where they absolutely laid the wood on the Buffalo Bills. They did the same thing to the Miami Dolphins. And you're not getting a team that's coming in here and, let's just say, a veteran mentality. You still have the rookie head coach. You still have the rookie quarterback. Now they're going on their first road game into a hostile environment, coming West Coast to East Coast. It's a high line, and it's hard. And I know it's week 2, and we see what we see week 1 with the Baltimore Ravens. But I got to tell you, just riding the hot hand at this point, I'm more likely to get the Arizona offense, Jimmy, that scores like 14 points in this game. And I easily think the Baltimore Ravens can touch the high 20s, low 30s versus that Arizona Cardinals team.
Yeah, I absolutely hear that. Tomarino says Arizona couldn't do anything until Detroit went to prevent defense with a big lead. Says idling under. Dennis Cloak says again, take the Ravens. Cardinals on their second away game. Giants and Ravens will cover. Go against the teams that haven't been home yet. See, when it comes to the 49ers that are chilling out in Youngstown right now as we speak, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. I like that they're on the road together after a win. But we'll keep talking about that. Drew Barron says Baltimore's at Kansas City next week. Look ahead spot says if Baltimore's up big at the half, I would take Arizona second half due to Baltimore looking ahead. This huge spread makes me uncomfortable. I do not want to have much action involved with huge spreads. And now we come to the Patriots at Dolphins. The Patriots at Dolphins. Here we go. Dolphins couldn't have looked any worse. And now we see in -19 at Heritage and Bovada and 5 Dimes, a total at 48. I mean, look, this is just a giant recency bias at play here. The Dolphins have to play with some pride. They just got their teeth kicked in. They have to step up to some extent. Patriots look like they knew everything that the Steelers were going to do. It felt like they were still filming practices. In this game, you could see a sloppy second half. I'm certainly not going to take the Patriots here. In fact, I find the Dolphins interesting at +19. And I also think that this is one of those games you can see a first half under, second half over. Donnie, right side, can you find sense in this Patriots and Dolphins spot?
Yeah, the game won't be on my card, but there's no way in hell in the NFL I'm taking a road team that has to win by 3 touchdowns just to cover a point spread. It would be the Miami Dolphins or nothing for me in this spot. I don't know. Is it Bill Belichick? Is he angry at Brian Flores? How dare you take that divisional, head coach football job? I'll show you as a head coach what you never should cross me again. And I get that the Miami Dolphins were already quitting before the season began, but there's something about getting your butt whooped week 1 and at least showing up week 2 at home. We all know the struggles when the New England Patriots, for some reason, it's like kryptonite in the state of Florida. When Tom Brady goes to Florida, he goes into retirement Brady mode, and they usually play much worse than what they do anywhere in Foxborough or throughout the rest of the NFL. It's 18.5. It's Dolphins or nothing for me. There's still professional football teams out here. If everything goes wrong, yes, the Miami Dolphins are going to get wasted in this football game if the Patriots play any semblance of what they did opening night versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. 19 points, give me the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be sitting here with a Dolphins ticket, but I'm not taking the Patriots. And we've always seen how tough the Dolphins play the Patriots, but these guys have to wake up in the morning and they have to go out and get groceries. And if they're going to be sitting here losing 40 and 50 points, they're not going to be able to do that. They've
can't
got
go to the club, man. You can't go to the club like that, man.
No, you can't do anything. You can't do anything. I remember reading Ken Dryden's The Game when I was younger, and I always thought about Ken Dryden driving, is the windows down. He wants everybody to see him because they're winners. And here we go with this Dolphins team. You're in this great city of Miami, and yet you don't want to leave the house. They've got to play with some heart here. David Gerard says, I got it at minus 16.5. Pats haven't forgotten that BS fluke loss last year in Miami. Dennis Cloak says, Miami beat Patriots 2017 at home, and last year when they are home, Miami plus points. Yeah, that's the only look I would make at this point. Kenny Dorsey says, Jimmy, what about Patriots first half? If you're going to take the Patriots, that's got to be the only look. But we just see how traditionally this is a tough spot. Donnie, what do you think about a full game over here if it gets sloppy in the second half and the Patriots do have a big lead?
Yeah, no, I could say this game could go two ways. You could have one of those Patriot games where they used to show last year in Foxborough late in the season. We're just going to run the football. We're up 14-0, 17-0, 21-0. We're going to take the air out of the football. But I don't think that's going to be the case this early. They're going to be working on things. The Patriots are a machine, especially on third down. The best quarterback to ever play the game. They're going to be in the high 20s at a minimum, which tells me late in the football game, look, the Dolphins are probably going to get some backdoor action in this game. I would lean over just because you still have that monitor. Look, you had a team last week in the Ravens, Jimmy, that struggled to throw 3-yard passes in the past that were lighting this Dolphins team up. They could score a lot, the Patriots, but I still think the Dolphins are going to be on that scoreboard as well.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in the over, but I am also fearful of what you said with them running the ball. I'm not sure if I'm going to make a move here. Not Flush On says New England's looking to destroy each team by 30. Brady still in the game up 30 with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Tom Marino says Pats likely run a lot, shorten the game. All right, let's move on to this Dallas Cowboy Washington Redskins spot. Dallas opening up at minus 6.5. Now that was a plus money. Plus 104. There's now 4.5s on the board and a couple fives, mainly 4.5s. This total opened up at 44, went up to 46.5. If you had offered this to me at 44, I probably would have taken the over. Now 46.5 doesn't look as appealing. Redskins played good football for most of that game. Dallas, though, has so much confidence right now. And I just see them. They're a good football team with a excellent defensive coordinator and a great defense. And on paper, they are so much better than the Redskins, especially with Geis' injury. But Redskins players are upset about Gruden's decision to bench Peterson. And Peterson's going to be in the lineup, and it wouldn't shock me if they rally around Peterson. This is one of the spots where maybe Redskins early might be a look. Donnie, right side, Cowboys at Redskins.
Yeah, I like Dallas. I like them coming in the season. I thought they'd be the second-place team in the division, still get a wild card. I still think the Eagles are going to lead the charge here. But having said that, when you look at what took place last week with the Philadelphia Eagles against the Washington Redskins, you saw a touchdown by Vernon Davis where he shook off like 3 defenders, and somehow goes on like a 50-yard touchdown pass. You saw multiple blown coverages, which is really the only way that the Washington Redskins were actually getting after the Eagles in the first half. Once the Eagles went in the halftime, made some minor adjustments. They punted the first 3 times. The Eagles offense took over, and they only scored late in the football game because the Eagles were just in a prevent defense. I said, dude, if you want to score a touchdown, take all 3 minutes up, and this game's going to be a wrap at this point. I don't think that's going to happen versus the Dallas Cowboys. The one game I would have worried about was game 1 with the Cowboys. Well, how's that going to play? Because he wants to get on his contract. Well, how's Zeke going to play? He's been in Cabo. How's Amari Cooper? Didn't get much playing time over the first, couple preseason games dealing with that heel injury. They looked fantastic. They're going to be able to score versus the Redskins. Redskins aren't going to be able to score versus the Dallas Cowboys. Give me the Cowboys on the road in division by a touchdown.
Wow, that's a dangerous statement. And I understand why you're backing this Cowboy squad, but road team in division by a touchdown is just scary. It just scares me hearing it. You probably are easily on the right side with the Cowboys here, but just hearing that scares me. Let's move on to, and I'm sitting here being scared about everything. I apologize for that. Jacksonville, Houston opening up a -8.5. Again, I'm using Pinnacle openers for this episode. -8.5, and it's 8.5 pretty much everywhere. 9s at you wager, Heritage of Bovada, and of course the 10 at 5 dimes. When we know why 5 dimes hits that at the 10. David Sanders says, whale capper too busy capping to swing by early in the week. You'd have to ask him, David said, or partying in Vegas. He's just on our show on Fridays, but I like it. Prince of the City says, Donnie Seymour, if the Eagles play like that versus a good team, they will get the smackdown. You know what? Yeah. I am high on the Eagles. I'm high on the Eagles, and I'm not concerned at all by that Week 1 game. And Prince of the City continues trying to scare me on my Eagles futures, but that's not going to work. Jaguars, Texans. Minshew did not look bad. In fact, he looked good. Is that going to continue? I don't know. The jury's out. 22 for 25, 285 yards. Now, there's different psychological possibilities within this locker room of the Jaguars because one look could be the Jags vets going, here we go again. Here we go again. Toss this season out the window. The season's over. Also, are we going to get a Myles Jack suspension? That's very possible at this point. And then Deshaun Watson took a beating last night. An absolute beating. He needs to protect himself. And do you want to back this Texans team at home with Bill O'Brien coaching them after they lose a heartbreaker? That defensive play calling late was terrible. This is not a slam dunk for me on the Texans, even though I love Deshaun and DeAndre. But this is not a slam dunk for me. Donnie, right side, Jaguars, Texans.
No, it's not. I actually like the fact that Houston lost on that late field goal because, yes, it stings. Yes, you think they might have a little bit of a hangover, but they're going to remember waking up in the morning. They're 0-1, and they really need to get after it at home in game 2. Now, also, taking a look from a Jacksonville perspective, if Nick Foles is in this football game, spread would be a lot different, and I would think a lot differently about the Jaguars. Gardner Minshew going on the road in division as a rookie quarterback. I tweeted out earlier. The Jags, I'm going to put it on my time clock here, Jimmy, about 2 weeks. Jalen Ramsey will start, acting a fool in the locker room. This team will eventually quit on the Jacksonville Jaguars as a city as the season goes, just like they did last year. And I remember one game watching last year. I thought I was real smart. Oh, boy, I think Jacksonville's going to give Houston all they can handle at home, and they got absolutely destroyed late in the football season. A swan song to Blake Bortles. They have no shot in this football game. Double-digit winner by the Houston Texans this week.
Wow. Double-digit winner by Houston Texans this week. Wow. All right. Rob Weimer said Houston needs this more. Too many points to play on them. Dennis Cloak says this game is hard.
Minshew's a quarterback. Like, we have to remember, a rookie. Was Minshew even drafted? Like, take whatever you saw out of this Kansas City game where they were down big and he's throwing the football, having fun out here. There's game film. They're going to be ready for Gardner Minshew at quarterback. That offense that we saw in the preseason, get ready for it. It's coming back with Gardner Minshew. They're going to roll.
6th round, by the way, Donnie. Don't lose respect for our Minshew. I have no idea what Minshew's going to give, and I hear your breakdown. Once they have tape on him, I get it. Dennis Cloak says this game is hard. I would take Houston. If Jacksonville gets down by 10, they will be quiet. Brothers and Bet says the stadium in Jacksonville was kind of empty. The stadium in Houston is going to be packed. Let's move on to Seahawks at Steelers. Seahawks at Steelers. Here we go. Steelers open up a -3.5. There's a lot of 4s on the table. This total opened at 46.5, and there are some 46s now and 46.5s. So both teams put up stinkers week 1, but I expect the Steelers to bounce back at home. My only question is, so you guys, both you and Whale Capper, got me off Seahawks futures in the division, and I was watching this game or the Bengals game, and I was like, do the Seahawks suck? Are they just a bad football team? Like it was very difficult to figure out what I was seeing. And one thing we do know is that the Seahawks are not filming the Steelers practices like the Patriots must have been. We're getting a nice line because of the Steelers laying an egg. But if this was Steelers -3, I'd be all over them. But does this game come down to a field goal? It wouldn't shock me. Donnie, RightSide, Seahawks, Steelers.
This is a tough one here. And the same way I had that feeling on New England at home, getting 8 months to get ready. They're going to take away your best player. They did everything. New England did everything they were supposed to do. But this is going to be a little bit different animal here. Tom Brady, even though Russell Wilson, I love Russell Wilson. He's not Tom Brady. He's not going to come up to the line of scrimmage and say, it doesn't matter who lines up at wide receiver, running back. I'm just going to slice your defense. There's still a lot of talent on the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the Steelers got a little bit banged up also on Sunday Night Football. But what you have to again, the same old adage when we talk about week 2, Jimmy. One team, even though they didn't look that impressive in Seattle, they did win. So take a little bit of deep breath. Thank goodness we avoided that. Everybody is on pins and needles in Pittsburgh this week, including the fan base, wanting Mike Tomlin's head on a platter. Oh, you lose Antonio Brown. We can't beat anybody. Nobody beats New England. Nobody beats New England in New England at any time. Did you see the stat, Jimmy, that was out there last week? When Tom Brady and Julian Edelman start a football game for the Patriots, they're 40-0 in Foxborough. They weren't winning that football game. Now you have to temper your expectations. You come back home. The Steelers need this football game. And as bad as you saw them on Sunday Night Football, the Patriots do that to a lot of teams in Foxborough. They'll bounce back in this game. If you're going to say Russell Wilson is going to have to win you this football game, the one thing I do like is I think the pass rush is going to reemerge for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. I think the Steelers can win this football game and cover the line here early in the week.
So do I. And I don't want to be sitting here week 2 with a bunch of road favorites like a schmuck. And I need to get them off of my card, basically, and this is a way of doing it. But if this game came down to a field goal, no one would be surprised. Let's move on to 49ers at Bengals. 49ers at Bengals. Niners open up as a favorite, and now we have the Bengals as a favorite. To me, this is a classic overreaction. Let's talk about the Niners first. They overcame a lot of mistakes in a tough road game. As I already said on the show, they stayed out east. They're in Youngstown for the week, bonding. I think this is good for the football team. As soon as Jimmy G adjusted, now he had to throw that terrible pick 6, but as soon as he realized, look how good our defense is. Just don't make mistakes. Then we started rolling. The Bengals do not have an O-line. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, regardless, maybe the flu was a big factor in Mike Evans playing so badly, but the Bucs offense is way better than the Bengals offense on paper, and the Niners made the Bucs offense look like assholes. If Jimmy G plays smart, playing in Cincy's much easier than playing in Tampa this time of year, I think the 49ers win this game, come back to San Francisco 2-0. I also am interested in the over. Donnie, RightSide, Niners at Bengals.
Yeah, it's interesting. With San Francisco, that was a tough game to call down there in Tampa. I thought the game would get over. It didn't get over. But from a player's perspective or how the game plan actually rolled out, I liked what San Francisco did. You know what I really like, Jimmy? Getting after the pass rusher because it covers up a lot of mistakes in your secondary. When the plays needed to be made, how about 3 interceptions by the San Francisco 49ers week 1, Jimmy, when they had 2 all of last year? That's got to start. But I also like forward-thinking observations out of football teams. What did they do? You talked about it to lead off the show. How smart is it where you go to Tampa Bay? Because one of the factors that we really would use is, all right, back-to-back road games. San Francisco to Tampa. Ooh, it's hot. Fly all the way back to San Francisco. Fly all the way back mid-east over there to play Cincinnati. They go up and they stay in Ohio. Nice little team-building activities. No stressful, no girlfriends, no wives, no kids. You hang out with the football team. You get reacclimated to that Eastern time zone like you were already in Tampa. I love the move by them. It's a tough line pick 'em. I could see this game going either way. I usually lean towards the home team, but tell me maybe a little bit of Niners action early this week. This won't be in my card, but this is more look-see. But if I had to make a wager on it, probably would be leaning towards San Francisco. Like the fact that they stayed. I think they're overall the more talented football team here.
I love it. TJ Parks also saying lost Quan Alexander in the first quarter as well. Predictions guy says I'm all over the over in 49ers Bengals. LA bout a bag though. Says I like the Bengals in this game, but I'm betting no money on it. Muhammad Joma says Bengals roll. San Francisco is a fraud. Shout out to Muhammad Joma for another play of the day winner on betting with the bag. TJ Parks says Muhammad is high and he's laughing. You know what? I love everything Donnie said about the 49ers staying in Youngstown. That defense looked nasty to me. Are the Bucs, is James terrible? Yes. Does he make terrible decisions? Yes. And did the Buccaneers have the flu? Possibly. Did everything set up for us to sit here and say the 49ers have a great defense? Maybe. And maybe that's why I need to sit back and take some time with it. I find the over appealing here. 49ers at Bengals. It's at 45, nice and low. What do you think about the over here, Donnie?
Yeah, look, I'll lean on it again because I think these two offenses can score because they have some suspect parts on their defenses. We know about the pass rush for the 49ers. And, hey, they did get 3 interceptions, but still on paper, they're a little bit suspect. And if you're going to give me a total that's going to line up in the low 40s, we're going to get decent weather. We're not talking about, Jimmy, Cincinnati, Ohio in, December where it's 38 degrees and the wind's whipping around. You're going to get some nice conditions that should be all right for scoring.
I mean, Donnie, should I just take out all, I hear what Dennis Cloak is saying, and he's right. Historically, he's right. But do you ever take a team on their second road when they start with 2 games on the road? Do you ever back a team in the second week? Is every situation different, and you have to look at it with fresh eyes, or is this something that you just say, second road game, even if I like it, I'm going to stay off of it?
No, everything is different because there is something to be said about that. But again, it's not like the second road game where, oh, boy, we're at Pittsburgh and then we're at New England. They say, oh, that really skews the numbers. We're talking about the Bengals here. All right, the Bengals were throwing up a couple of Hail Mary passes and getting some luck against, Seattle was all fine and good. And again, the 49ers aren't the end-all, be-all football team. But if we're going to be a close game, I just like the play caller better for the San Francisco 49ers. I like the quarterback better on the San Francisco 49ers. I like the pass rush better on the 49ers. And they're doing things that are smart psychologically for the football team. They're telling them, hey, after we win in Tampa, we're not even coming home. We're going right up to Ohio. We're going to mean business for the week. We're not hanging out. We're not partying. We're not, getting woken up by babies. This is a business trip. And again, this is the Bengals we're playing here. It's not the Patriots.
So right now, and, I struggle in week 2s historically, so I don't want to trust myself. But the Chargers, the Bills, these are road favorites that you probably want to stay away from. Here's the Bills on the second week on the road, but staying in the same stadium. Then I find this Steelers is a possible spot, and the 49ers with the 49ers Bengals over. I find those very appealing spots right now. Let's move on to Vikings at Packers. Vikings at Packers. Packers opening up at -2.5. They're 2.5 at just 5 dimes. They're 3 everywhere else. This total opened up at 46. Pinnacle juiced 45 -125 under 45 -125, but 44.5 and now 44s here at Bookmaker and Heritage. Expecting tough defense. And I'm not sure if that's what we're going to get here. I also think that might be an overreaction to the Packers Thursday night opener. Minnesota is a good football team. Both defenses are good. The Vikings now this is simplifying everything, so don't get me wrong, but both defenses are good. Vikings have a better offense, but the Packers have the better quarterback. From a Vikings perspective, Dalvin Cook looked awesome. And compare that to a Packers playmaker like Devontae Adams, who didn't do a thing last week. Pettin looked good as a defensive coordinator. Looks terrible as a head coach, but looked good as a defensive coordinator. I have not heard anybody on the Packers. Maybe I'd like to hear what Mohamed Joma thinks about this, because I've not heard anybody on the Packers. All I've heard, Vikings +3, Vikings +3, Vikings +3. Donnie RightSide, Vikings and Packers.
Normally, I would say Vikings +3. Oh, my God, where can I sign up here? But let's talk about it. There's some extenuating factors in here. You have one team, Jimmy, that played on Thursday night and has their feet up, drinking pizza, relaxing, drinking the Gatorade, already game planning versus the Minnesota Vikings and get them at home when the Vikings had to play on Sunday in an NFL game, and now they're going to have to go on the road. You know me all summer long. I say the Vikings are a better team than the Packers. Even on Thursday Night Football, I said I thought the Chicago Bears would beat the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. The more talented team by far on that football field is the Minnesota Vikings. But the Minnesota Vikings are on the road. The Green Bay Packers, in effect, have a mini bye working on their side. Look at where that line opens up at. If you can get the Green Bay Packers maybe, I mean, they're sitting at -3, -100, -103. If you can maybe get to 2.5, that's a stone cold Green Bay Packers line. Simple fact is they're rested. They had an extra couple days to prepare. That is massive in today's NFL.
This, to me, is a week 2 spot in a game that I'd love to have action on, that I'm not going to make that mistake this year. I'm going to sit back and watch this game with a cold beverage, and I don't need to make a move here. This is a very tight line, and I do have some interest on this over as it keeps getting lower. I think this could be an overreaction to how bad Devontae Adams and the Packers offense looked. What do you think? I mean, we're talking about Lambeau in September. It's not a bad place to play. What do you think about the total here?
Totals, it's kind of tough to reach off because I am trying to get a gauge on Green Bay, because when you look at Green Bay, it looks like it's Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers and nobody else that's going to help them out. Now, you try to temper that because you're going up against by far the single best defense in the NFL with the Chicago Bears last week. The Vikings have an equally good defense. I can't say it's as good a defense because the Chicago's clearly ahead of them, but really good defensive coordinator as the head coach of Mike Zimmer, really good overall philosophy. These teams know each other well, and Minnesota is the more talented team. But when you pick spots in the NFL, I just think it's a great spot for the Packers. They're at home. They know they need to win this football game. Minnesota, if they go into Green Bay and take a loss and drop to 1-1, just take a sigh of relief and move on. Like, hey, it would be nice to get that one. Green Bay needs this football game. You're telling me if Green Bay can beat the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings to start the season, they have to go out and do it. I think the line says it there. To me, this is a Packers game.
It does. But do you feel a team like the Green Bay Packers that have fans everywhere, that after a week 1 showing where they go into Soldier Field and win, that everybody's going to be loving this football team that might just be a above average football team and will have value fading them, especially after that Thursday night game?
I like to fade Green Bay on the road here because, again, I don't think they're as talented as they normally have been over the past 2 to 3 years, but I actually think the opposite effect. Oh, my God, did you see Dalvin Cook? Oh, my God, they killed Atlanta. They're getting points. Like, that's the way the public's going to think about this football game with Minnesota, which to me, I think is the wrong way to take a look at it. They're going to be hell on wheels at home. Aaron Rodgers healthy at home in Lambeau. Same thing as that Tom Brady. It's hard to beat these guys at home, especially when you're looking at a 3-point line. You're basically just saying Green Bay just has to win at Lambeau with Aaron Rodgers. He's done that a ton in the past.
I don't find either side appealing. This is a tight line. And I need to watch more. Okay, let's keep rolling along here. Chiefs at Raiders. Chiefs open up at -7.5, and they're still at 7.5 at Pinnacle. So interesting what Pinnacle's done. Pinnacle opened at 7.5, -105. It's now -102, which is funny because a lot of other books have gone to 8, and some have gone to 9. So that's an interesting spot here. This total is at 52. We watched the game last night, and the Raiders' offensive line was astounding. Right? How they kept Chubb and Von Miller away was extremely impressive. But the way I see this, and again, this might be simplifying too much, but the Raiders are on a high, and they're about to get flattened. And I want to jump on the Chiefs here. But am I simplifying things too much, Donnie?
Yeah, it's tough because, you saw the lines that came out last week, and that game probably would have been a little bit different if Nick Foles, who already threw a touchdown pass and was like, 5 of 6, 5 of 7, 5 of 8 with like 80 yards in a touchdown pass, goes down with a broken clavicle, and then they get Gardner Minshew. You knew once Minshew came in the game was basically a wrap, and Kansas City would run away, and you do get deflated on the sideline. Let's talk about even the Jacksonville defense. Foles goes down with a broken shoulder, and Minshew comes in. That defense like, oh my God, we ain't got no shot in this football game. Now flip it over to a week later. Back-to-back road games here for Kansas City. They're going to be laying more than a touchdown because everybody likes them. Let's not also forget, there's going to be no Tyreek in this game. Tyreek is going to be sitting out. The cheetah, as fast as he is going to miss, 4, 5, 6 weeks. That's going to be taken out of the equation. It's a divisional game. It's on the road for them. It's hard to win division games on the road by double digits. Right now, looking at this line, I like the Raiders in this game early, Jimmy.
Wow, and so do a lot of people in the chat. Well, it's nice to be able to talk these things out because now I feel like an ass for not being on the Chiefs last week. So I gave out to people in the office Chiefs first half and then didn't even end up betting it myself. That would have been a big difference maker for me, but maybe from a capping perspective, it wasn't wrong decision when you talk about what Foles was doing. And then what Minshew did. How bad is this Chiefs defense, Donnie?
I don't think the Chiefs defense is really that bad. It's almost like a product when you take a look at like college football teams. When your offense is so prolific, you're no doubt going to give up chunks of yardage on defense because they're going to get the ball back sooner. And you're usually going to be, as a defense, playing with the lead. So the other, a little bit of prevent. You're not in that first quarter, second quarter mentality. I don't think the Chiefs defense is all that bad. I just don't like particularly the spot that Kansas City is in, because now when we talked about San Francisco, Jimmy, staying, going down to play Tampa, staying in the Eastern time zone, you have Kansas City goes to Jacksonville, plays in the heat, flies back home. Then they go to the West Coast opposite when the Oakland Raiders already played at home. They don't have to go anywhere. So I like it. If it stays over a touchdown, I would lean towards the Oakland Raiders this week.
Wow. All right. Well, that will give me time for pause and reflection. Let's move on to Saints at Rams. Saints at Rams here. Rams opening up at -3. They're now -2.5 pretty much everywhere. If you wanted 3, you can get it at a plus line. This total opens up at 54. It's now at 53, basically across the board. So it depends. Everybody looks at these things differently. The first thing that comes to mind is clearly, will the Saints unleash anger over what happened at the end of last season? Maybe we need to start there. And all cappers see these things differently. How do you see this, Donnie? Are the Saints going to unleash this anger because of how last season ended?
No, just to start off, that, absolutely not. I mean, it's the minute that game's kicked off and you make the first tackle of the game, every single thing that you talk that smack for before the game is out the window after the first play. I don't believe in any of that.
I don't either. And the more we pay these guys, the less they care about these situations. What they care about is staying healthy, and they have every right to. Let's talk about the Rams. I don't know how good they are. I still don't, because I think the Panthers could be a bad. Well, we expect the Panthers to be a 7-9 football team, a 6-10 football team, because that's what the Panthers look like. That was a very low-scoring first half. I don't know what the Rams are, and I thought the Saints just beat a really good football team. Now, they barely did it, but I thought that was impressive coming back from 14-3 at the half. And I know that, Peyton can out-coach O'Brien all day, and that was part of the reason why they came back. And maybe if you put Peyton as the coach of the Texans and O'Brien as coach of the Saints, maybe the Texans take care of that game. I'm not high on either of these teams, and now they clash, and I don't know where to stack them at this point. I don't know how to handle this situation. Donnie, do you know how to handle Saints at Rams?
Just taking a look early in the week, I mean, there's no really revenge situation, and we really got to get them back because the game's not in New Orleans. But taking a lot out of last night, I thought Houston, for 55 minutes out of the 60-minute game, Jimmy, was the much better football team than the Saints were. And I know Whale Capper's going to come on later in the week, and his, prognosis of Drew Brees is coming truer sooner than I actually thought it would be. When you watch, yes, if you just look at numbers, oh my God, Drew Brees. If we watch that football game, did he throw like one deep ball? And the shame of it is, if you were backing a side of the New Orleans Saints, Ted Ginn was wide open by 5 yards behind the secondary late in that football game, had to come back, still made the play, but that should be a touchdown pass. Any other young quarterback with a live arm leads Ted Ginn. That's like a 75-yard touchdown pass, and that game's already in the books. Now you're going on the road, and the Rams, when you take a look at home field advantage or not when they play in the Coliseum, we'll take that out. But if you look at the New Orleans Saints, just like the Seattle Seahawks, it's a unique advantage where, and in sport, it's really unique because when you go play basketball, the three-point line is the same, and the crowd really doesn't affect you because they're not cheering the whole game. When you play in New Orleans, your defense has such an advantage because nobody can hear the snap count. So everybody waits for the ball. The audibles get messed up. Now you go on the road and you put that Saints defense on grass when they're built for speed to get after the quarterback. That completely changes. This is a Rams game for me, all intents and purposes. They should have lost New Orleans last night. Now the Rams are coming home, the more talented football team in their own building outside of the dome, where that severe advantage comes in for New Orleans, especially on defense, won't be there. They're going to get beat in this football game. Give me the Rams.
You had a great call on the Rams in week 1, and this probably is it again. I might be moving in that direction. Let's move on to Bears-Broncos. I'm looking at this total at 40.5, and it looks like a 65, the way these two offenses looked week 1. I expect this Broncos defense to come back with a vengeance, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I was shocked yesterday when I was watching. I was like, every play, I was like, watch what Chubb does here. Watch what Von Miller. Chubb, and they were doing nothing. I mean, they weren't even dirty at the end of the game. And then the Bears offense with Trubisky looked awful. And I even thought this would open at 38, not 40.5. I don't know what to. This is another spot where I don't know what these. I guess I know what the Broncos are, but I expect both teams to be better week 2, especially with the Broncos at home and the Bears getting the extra time. Right, as you said, the Bears were kicking back with pizza and Gatorade. Is this a spot where the under is in play? Do you expect a big bounce back from Trubisky? I think this Bears offense is going to be bad. I think the Broncos at home could easily be a look. What do you think here, Donnie? Broncos, Bears.
Yeah, we made it. I made it official early this morning. Obviously, I'm not going to tweet it out because I want to save it for the show here. But I wanted it at I wanted the Bears at +1, but it wasn't up on the contest yet. So I waited till this morning, and I got the Bears at a pick 'em +100. Now you see it across the board, 2.5s with a lot of juice. This was one I circled. The minute the game ended with the Green Bay Packers, I loved it because everybody has the narrative. Trubisky stinks. The Bears are who we thought they were. They're going to have severe regression. And then when you take a step back and think about it, this is one of the biggest mismatches you could possibly have in a scheduling conflict because you have a team that played on Thursday at home. They have Friday off. They have Saturday off. They have Sunday off. They have Monday off. The Denver Broncos not only played on Monday Night Football, but played the late game on Monday Night Football. When usually that game kicks off at 8 o'clock, that didn't kick off till 10:30 last night. One of the more extreme advantages that you're going to have where you have a team in the Chicago Bears that knows they're supposed to put up or shut up this season. They know they can't go 0-2. The Denver Broncos show you nothing on offense. You remember we were watching that game on Thursday night? Yeah, Trubisky did struggle. I understand that. I expect him to be better in this football game. But you're watching Aaron Rodgers manipulate the pocket and getting roasted 5, 6, 7 sacks in that football game, but he still made plays outside the pocket. Joe Flacco is an absolute statue. This Chicago Bears defense is going to beat him like a piñata in this football game. Bears are going to roll in this game, Jimmy.
It's a great breakdown. And Muhammad Jones says Chicago just a far superior team to this Denver group. Datfire TV says Bears scream under. Prediction Sky is already on the under. Dennis Cloak, Denver, and Chicago under. If everybody's on the under, and I thought it would open up at 38, why has it only gone to 40 at a few books? And there's actually, wow, it just moved to 40 at another book. But just Heritage, UWager, Bovada, Bookmaker, and 5 Dimes at 40. The rest are at 40.5. Why is this number not going down faster?
It's a pretty good point because when you're looking, you're expecting Chicago should be in the mindset in this game. We just need a win. Like we don't have to show out on offense. We don't have to run triple option and put Trubisky in all these type of situations. You just want to lean on your defense because when you take a look at it, the Denver Broncos, forget about even last night where they scored 16 points and added a late score to even try to make it 16 points. They were horrific all game long. But even coming into the season, we laughed at the Broncos, said, the hell they have at wide receiver? They're just going to lean on their running back and Joe Flacco and everything's going to be fine. This defense that the Bears have, getting extra 4 or 5 days to prepare, is going to be on tilt. And I'm looking at maybe a team total under on the Broncos. Is Joe Flacco going to stand tall in the pocket and deliver bombs down the field on this Chicago team that made Green Bay just look like a pedestrian football team, one of the best quarterbacks of all time? It just matches up really well. But it's hard because I don't think the Denver Broncos are going to get over 14 points in this game, which then you're saying, all right, Donnie, well, Chicago, after what they show with 3 points, is going to have to get in the high 20s. The actual total, I would sit out, but there's no question in my mind, Chicago really should beat this team up physically.
And sit out because it's such a low number? Why would you sit out?
I need to see more. I can't just say, all right, because I think Trubisky has a bounce back, but bounce back meaning from 3 points to 21 points. You see what I mean? I would be surprised if they go in there and throw it all over the lot. This is more one of those games where we know we're the superior team. Let's just not mess this up. If we're at the 50-yard line at 4th and 1, let's punt it down to the 5-yard line, let our defense get out there and get after it. That's why I'm a little bit tentative. 40 is an extremely low number, especially in an NFL game. But when you have a defense like the Chicago Bears that has the potential to say, you know what, I don't even know if Denver's going to get in the end zone in this football team, it's still hard for me to take the total because I don't have Tom Brady on the opposite side saying, no matter what happens, Jimmy, I'm going to get 30 points out of the Chicago Bears. That's what's leaning me a little bit scarce on taking that total in this one.
We have 2 games left on this card, and generally we don't spend much time on the Monday Nighter, but I want to spend a bit of time on the Monday Nighters, and we've got to put a bow on this show. So let's go through Eagles, Falcons, and Browns at Jets. Let's first start with Eagles, Falcons, and and I don't want to rush you with your Eagles breakdowns by any source of the imagination. Eagles opening up at -1. It's a pick'em at 5 dimes, but we understand why that is. -2 at Bovada. Both those books, you can explain that. -1.5 at Bookmaker and Heritage. And you wager this total opened up at 51, has not moved. Not moved at all. This is a tough spot for the Falcons. Very tough opening 2 games. For the Eagles, Wentz looked like he was back to his old self. I see this Eagles team as hungry, and I see this cap as dangerous and difficult. I let you take the lead on this, Donnie RightSide. What do you think about your Eagles on the road week 2 in the Dome in Atlanta?
I think I like points in this game. You say, wait a second, Atlanta looked terrible. They were getting shut out 28-0 and got a couple meaningless scores at the end of the football game. But the one thing that the Eagles looked like to be a little bit susceptible to early in the season is their secondary having coverage breakdowns. And you know what? Matt Ryan can throw the football a little bit. And there's a guy named Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and Mohamed Sanu on the opposite side that should be able to get after it when 3 no-name wide receivers were getting after the Philadelphia Eagles on opening day. They'll clean up some of those mistakes. But the one thing that is for sure is Atlanta's not stopping the Philadelphia offense in this football game. So if I'm going to take a look at an over-under that's sitting at like 50.5, 51, 51.5, I think we're going to get points in this football game. You're in a dome. It's going to be fast. Deshaun Jackson's going to run wild. Carson Wentz, already back to MVP form, was absolutely outrageous on Sunday. And both of these defenses have a little bit of question marks. It's a tough line because, again, you don't really know what you're going to get out of Atlanta. They're going to go home. The Eagles won their first game. This is actually a tough spot to be Sunday Night Football for the Philadelphia Eagles. Do I think the Eagles can win this football game? Sure I do, because I think they're a superior team than the Atlanta Falcons. But I actually like points more than the actual side in this game, Jimmy, early in the week.
I love that look. I really, really like that look, and I think that's going to be on my card, the over in Eagles at Falcons. And then let's get to the Monday Nighter, Browns at Jets. This, to me, seems like a perfect bounce-back spot for the Cleveland Browns. And I've not been high on them at all through the preseason. They were just clearly believing in all the hype. Then they get beaten up, embarrassed at home, and that humbling helps. Now, you know, is Odell going to stop wearing a $200,000 watch? No, and that's something that you guys have to deal with if you're Browns fans, and I don't have to deal with that tomfoolery. But I see the Browns taking that humbling and playing a very good football team, or at least as good as they can play here week 2 at the Jets. And then Mosley, we got to figure out more about the Mosley injury. Will he be back for the Jets? He's a big piece. But to me, I see Browns bouncing back here in New York. Let's take a look at this line. Open Browns -1 already. Browns -2.5 and pretty juiced. -120 at 5 dimes, -116 at Pinnacle. This total opened at 46. It's gone down to 45 at some books. Do the Browns bounce back? Are the Jets going to be bad this year like we expected when we broke down this team in our preseason looks? Browns Jets, Donnie, Monday night.
You know what? I agree with you here, Jimmy. And again, I sent the tweet out. It made perfect sense to me. You know, when the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield lose, America wins, because it's so fun to see a team that's swashbuckling with absolutely nothing that they proved with that franchise over the past 20, 25 years, get embarrassed opening day. It felt really good, but I like that spot now as we take a look moving over forward, because the New York Jets, I guess without C.J. Mosley, they're a horrific football team. If C.J. Mosley finishes the game out with the Buffalo Bills, maybe the game stands 16-0 and they win. The minute he went out with a groin injury, they completely fell apart on defense. Queen and Williams also getting injured with an ankle injury. That doesn't bode well. But if I can just look at the game itself here, Jimmy, and we say, all right, the turnover is going to be somewhat even with Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, and the Browns won't set a record for penalties. Man for man in this football game, the Browns are so far superior. I like a bounce back on Monday Night Football. I think Cleveland gets it done on the road. The only thing I was a little bit nervous was early in the morning here about Baker Mayfield, you know, with that throwing wrist, throwing shoulder, was a little bit banged up. Looks like he's cleared to go. As long as he has a strong practice week, doesn't have any time or any issues, or isn't limited at all in practice, I think the Cleveland Browns are going to win this football game here.
So do I, but would you wait and make sure that he's good to go? Talk about Baker?
No, I think he's ready to go. He got the clean bill of slate this morning, so I don't think you're going to have any issues. But if you're looking at that line going to 3 between 2.5, you might want to grab it now, because it might hit that -3 later in the week when it shows he is healthy and practicing.
I think that is a look. I think that's a look. So, Donnie, about the Pick 6 contest, we got to put a bow on this show, but you've already locked in one player. Have you locked in more?
Nope, I locked in one play. It was the Chicago Bears pick on +100 on there. And again, I'm going to keep it's real easy to see exactly what I'm on, and real easy and transparent. Every play I make, which is going to be 6 plays a week right here on the Audible, they'll be my exact pick 6 plays. That was one play I made. Again, I'm with SBR. I can't go in and manipulate. Oh, you got to pick them in 0 and you didn't have it out. we have to save some things for the show. I don't want to tweet, I don't have to watch the show. I know Donnie's on the Bears. So you do have to watch the show to see exactly what I have, but it's always going to be out there right in the fine print. You'll see it each and every week. It's Chicago Bears at a pick 'em. I got that game at. And even though it's a 2.5, Jimmy, with the breakdown we had, I still like it. They're going to win the game comfortably. Don't worry about it.
I like it too. And I understand your Bears look. It makes ton of sense, but I'm still hesitant early in the season, Denver at home, but I still understand your look. Well, I've got a lot of clarity now on this card. Mm-hmm. This was very helpful for me, Donnie RightSide. Love having this opportunity to break these games down with you on Tuesday and then hammer them on Friday with the whale capper. Donnie RightSide and the chat, thank you guys so much. We have no show without you. Donnie RightSide, any last words to the chat and to the our SBR crew watching at home?
Yeah, the only thing I'm upset with, Jimmy, is we don't have NFL football 52 weeks a year because doing the show, I mean, look, we just went an hour and 15. It's so much fun just to talk NFL football and go back and forth. The chat box is fantastic this year. Every year it seems like the show grows and grows and grows, Jimmy. You're a great host on it. You bounce things right back and forth. Time goes fast. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for Friday when we start locking some of these games in and get a real good feel, man. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I'm just, nothing makes me happier than this opportunity. And it's also the chat, such a big part of it. Thank you for all the insights, all the humor, all the fun, keeping it exciting, keeping it fresh. And don't forget, there's still time to jump in the $50,000 Pick Six contest. There it is right there. There is the link. All right, we have a lot of work to do on this card. And I have Donnie RightSide on Betting with the Bag Friday morning. And then we have the Audible on Friday. So I will get some work done, Donnie, and I'll be ready to fire on Friday. On behalf of Donnie RightSide and myself and everybody here at SBR, thank you guys so much for watching this show, and let's get after it this week. NFL's back, baby. Enjoy your afternoon. Thank you for watching.